Howdy, welcome back to the Dice Cast. We've got an exciting and different sort of matchup tonight. We are starting off our Winter Rubicon tournament. And this is a single elimination 8-man tournament. It's a traditional bracket like you might see in the NCAA, something like that. And so it's starting with 8 players. Each of them has a different faction. And I can show you the bracket here on screen. As you'll see, tonight's matchup is going to be Andrew playing the Soulblight Gravelords against Sean and his Sylvaneth. And we're going to have all of the rest of these games on the channel, play through the whole bracket, and eventually get a champion at the end. We're pretty excited about it.
I'm Sean, and I'm here to play Sylvaneth today. My buddy Andrew, that I've known for quite a while, I've been playing Sylvaneth ever since around when First Edition started. And I went through the entirety of Second Edition with them not being great at all. Thankfully, Third Edition has started to bring them up a little bit, and they're starting to get towards the mid-tiers, which is pretty nice for me. And today I know that I'm going to be going against another Death Army, and thankfully, especially against Andrew, I have a little bit of practice beating up on Death.
It's true, unfortunately. Well, my name's Andrew. I have been playing Warhammer for a very long time, probably like 10 times as long as you have, take?
At least.
Too long. I hop in and out of tournament scenes, so I kind of do stuff. I'm not always the best player, but I try to have fun. Mainly, I like to paint a lot. And since you now know that I've been playing a long time, you're going to see a lot of models in my army that are old. Very old.
But cool.
I like to think so. Looking forward to this. I think it'll be a good time.
So I'm here today to play Sylvaneth. We're going to be playing with the new hotness, the Glade Gnarlroot. I used to play Winterleaf a lot, but today Gnarlroot's going to be the one I take for the tournament. We're going to be using grand strategy of Prize Sorcery, and my Triumph is going to be Inspired. We're going to start off with my General, which is the Warsong Revenant. He's going to have the command trait of Nurtured by Magic. Artifact is going to be Chalice, so that way I can get the 3d6 casting roll and discard the lowest. Universal Spell Work for Flaming Weapon. Next is going to be my Tree Lord Ancient, who is going to have Virtuous Harmony. Drycha, my only named wizard, is going to be coming with Regrowth as her spell lore. And then my last leader is going to be a Branch Wraith with the Spirit Song Stave for an extra spell that turn, as well as Throne of Vines for their spell lore to help get those Dryads out. For the rest of the army, I'm bringing a block of 30 Dryads along with 2 units of 5 Tree Revenants and a block of 6 Kurnoth Hunters with sides. I'm also going to be bringing the Umbral Spell Portal for a little mortal wound sniping, hopefully, as well as the Glade Worm to support the rest of my army as I go up the field.
Alright, so I'm going to be playing Soulblight Gravelords. My subfaction is going to be Legion of Blood, and I'm also going to be taking advantage of the new hotness from the White Dwarf. In that, you will see I have a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. His Warlord trait is the Premeditated Violence. Hopefully he can get some extra hits. His artifact is the Soulbound Garments, so that he should survive. His expertise is Martial, so he'll get a 4th attack with his Death Lance. And his Mount Train is going to be Fetid Breath for the reroll hits, or the reroll damage, I suppose. He's going to take Flaming Weapon as his extra spell. I also have Neferata, who took Overwhelming Dread, try to get some nerfs out there. I also have Manfred, who has Fate and Vigor as his spell. So again, more nerfs is best for me. And I'm going to round out my characters with Necromancer, who simply has some Decrepify, just in case. From Battle Line, I'm taking 2 units of Black Knights, because they're cheap and they move fast. I'm also taking a unit of 10 Dire Wolves for the same reason, but they're a little chunkier, so they can kind of go off on their own. Finally, I'm going to round out my list with 20 Graveguard to give me some combat potential, and then a Corpse Cart for extra nerfs, because more nerfs are better in my opinion.
Tonight our battle plan is going to be Feral Foray. We have 6 objective markers, 3 in each territory. You score 1 point for controlling 1 point for 2 or more, 1 if you have more than the opponent, and 2 if you complete your battle tactic this turn. We have a special ability in this game type called raiding objectives. From the start of the second battle round, after you score victory points, you can raid one objective that you control that is wholly within your opponent's territory and that is within 1 inch of a friendly unit. If you do so, you score 1 additional victory point. The objective is then removed from play. You cannot raid more than 1 objective per turn. We also get an additional 3 victory points if we complete the grand strategies, and the battle length is 5 rounds. So for my deployment, I started out with the Warsong Revenant, putting it back behind the woods so that way I can give it a little bit of safety as well as its +1 to casting. Not only that, but I'll also get cover if anything were to start coming at me. Then I placed down the True Lord Ancient to cover my right flank, and then Drytra right in the middle, kind of where I want her for her shooting attacks. And as I drop my battle regiment, I have the Kurnoth Hunter supporting the True Lord Ancient back there. The Dryads are going to be supporting Drytra, helping out my forward advance. My Branch Wraith is also behind the woods for easy summoning targets. And then my 2 units of True Revenants are just in back corners trying to make sure that they stay out of anything until I am ready to use them.
As for my own deployment, I have the Graveguard front and center because they're a nice chunk unit. They need to be in the middle of the action and they don't move fast, so right up the middle is where they're going to go. On the flanks, I have some skirmishers to keep some teleporting trees off my back, if possible. And the characters kind of hang out behind them to not be hit right away. That's my preference. I also have a unit of Black Knights hiding in a gravesite.
With me having priority of finishing deploying first, I'm going to decide to take the first round. At the start of the battle round, I am going to use Dryaeka's Mercurial Aspect to choose Enraged, so that way her Colony of Flitter Fury's attacks characteristic goes to 20 instead of 10. I don't expect her to get into range for shooting attacks, however, I know that I need to keep remembering to do this. For my battle tactic, I'm going to be picking Ferocious Advance. The 3 units for my Ferocious Advance are going to be my Drycha, Tree Lord Ancient, and my Kurnoth Hunters with sides. For my heroic action, I'm going to be choosing Heroic Leadership, and I'll be doing this with the Tree Lord Ancient on a 4-up, and I get it.
I will also be choosing Heroic Leadership for mine, and I get it. I will be choosing Heroic Leadership with Neferata.
At the start of my hero phase, the first thing I'm going to do is use that additional command point I got from the Tree Lord Ancient to use Heed the Spirit Song to add 1 to save rolls for all units wholly within 12 inches of that model, targeting the Tree Lord Ancient itself. The first spell I'm going to cast for the hero phase is going to be off of the Branch Wraith. We're going to attempt to cast Rouse to Wrath to summon a unit of 10 Dryads. And that goes off on an 8.
It is unfortunately out of range for my own Unbinds.
And I have set up the Dryads wholly within 1 inch of the Awakened Wildwood feature. Thanks to the Spirit Staff, or Spirit Song Stave, I will now use the Branch Wraith to cast a second spell, and that spell will be Verdant Blessing. Hopefully I can set up another Awakened Wildwood feature. It goes off on a 6, and we do not get that cast. For my next cast, I'm going to be using Drycha Hammerdreth, and I'm going to be casting Umbral Spell Portal. Going off on a 5 with an 18-inch range, and that is an 8.
I will attempt to stop it with my Vampire Lord. Nope.
For my next spell, it's going to be Warsong Revenant casting Throne of Vines. Goes off on a 7. 6, 7, 8, plus 1 from being next to the Wildwoods means a casting roll of 9.
I will attempt to deny it from Manfred. That's a 9.
Next, I will cast Unleash Swarm of Spites from the Warsong Revenant, going through the Umbral spell portal. I rolled 3 dice due to the Chalice of Nectar's ability to roll 3 dice and drop 1. If I were to drop 1, I go to a casting roll of a 3, 4 for being next to the woods, 5, 6 for Throne of Vines. The spell does not successfully cast. True Lord Ancient will attempt to cast Mystic Shield, and we get there with a 6.
Neferata is going to attempt to stop that roll with a 6. Not good enough.
We will place that on the unit of Colonel Hunters. The last thing in my hero phase will be Tree Lord Ancient, using Silent Communion to set up an Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18 inches of him, 3 inches from other terrain features, and away from other models or objectives. Alright, then we're going to go into movement phase. Very expansive movement phase. The only thing that didn't move were the Dryads that I just summoned that are not allowed to, and the Branch Wraith. I first sent up my back corner unit of Tree Revenants to crowd the gravesite next to the objective that is in my territory, hoping to stave off anything summoning in too close. Next, I moved the Dryads forward. I was able to get an advance of 5, so they moved 12 total inches to move straight up the middle, which is exactly where I want them to start meeting the army head-on. Next, to complete my battle tactic, I made sure that Drycha, Tree Lord Ancient, and the Kurnoth Hunters besides all advanced this turn, ending within 3 inches of each other. I then used my backfield unit of Tree Revenants to use their ability to transport to the other side of the table, giving me a little bit of a pocket so that way I can use my Allegiance ability to bring my Warsong Revenant over. Since the Warsong Revenant did not move, technically it maintains its Throne of Vines. In my shooting phase, I have nothing in range. Charge phase, nothing can really charge. Everything that would be in potential charging range, which should just be the Dryads, is not allowed to charge this phase. At the end of the turn, I will score 1 point for holding 1, 1 point for holding 2, 2 points for completing my battle tactic.
It is now a Soulblight turn, bottom of 1. The battle tactic I will pick is Ferocious Advance, and I'll be doing it with my 3 characters on monster mounts. As for my heroic action, I will be taking Heroic Leadership on Manfred. Aww.
For my heroic action, I'll be using Heroic Leadership with the Warsong Revenant. And we get there.
You got it, Buster. I'm going to start with Mystic Shield from my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Not until I attempt to cast it on a 6. It goes off.
I will attempt to unbind with the Warsong Revenant. And we denied it.
Manfred will attempt to cast Fading Vigor. He succeeds on a 7.
Drycha will attempt to dispel that. And we get a 6.
It's on the Dryads. Neferata is going to attempt to cast Overwhelming Dread. It will go off on a 6. That gives a unit within 18 inches -1 to hit.
We'll attempt to deny with the Tree Lord Ancient. And we get a 10.
Okay. Neferata will then do her second spell to cast Dark Mist. Oh, 5. She fails it by 1. Manfred's second spell will be Wind of Death. Casts on a 7. Gets it on a 7. So, on 3+, the Dryads take D3 mortal wounds, and all other units within 6 inches, same thing. So on the Dryads, nope. Draca was in. On Draca, yep, she takes 3 mortal wounds. Then on the Kerneth Hunters, they do not. So that leaves Mr. Necromancer for Van Hell's Dance Macabre.
Attempting to cast or unbind with the Branch Wraith. Does not get there with a 3.
I'm casting on these guys. I will use my 2 awesome command abilities this turn, both from Manfred and Neferata, to have Vigor of Undeath and Twilight's Allure. I will be starting my movement phase now.
I will use 1 command point to redeploy the Dryads. Dryads redeploy roll for 5 inches.
So for my movement phase, I wanted to start shifting my flank to the right because his hefty hitters are moving in on my left, and I'm not a fan when they hit me. My Graveguard went up as far as I could, but unfortunately he ran away, so my charge is going to be a little more difficult. Characters are doing the things to get points, so that's all they're there to achieve. And my Black Knights want to try to get those dudes. Soulblight Gravelords don't really have a shooting phase, so they will not partake in it this time. For my charge phase, I'm going to send the Black Knights into the spirits on my right side there. The good news is they have a minimum charge range of 6 inches due to their musician. So they will simply make that charge instead. Then, since they successfully made a charge move, the Black Knights will try to do some impact hits. And they fail. The Graveguard are hoping for a better charge roll than that last unit. An 8 will get them right where they need to go. I will spend a point to give the Graveguard all-out attack buffs.
To which I will spend 1 point for all-out defense on the Dryads.
The Graveguard will have 33 attacks this time. Normally the Graveguard would be -1 to hit because of Dryads are being awesome. However, the Legion of Blood is more awesome and ignores their negative modifiers to hit, and instead I will take the benefit of all-out attack to get a 2+ to hit. They wound on a 4+, and every 6 is a mortal wound in addition to the damage. 11 saves and 2 mortals.
At -1, 11 saves on a 4-up thanks to all-out defense. That's 6 wounds.
And this is 2 damage each for a total of 12 damage, plus 2 mortals.
14. I'm going to activate the Tree Revenants. Thanks to the Tree Revenants, Glade Banner Bearer, they can pile in up to 6 inches instead of 3. I have hopefully piled in enough to the point where I'll be able to keep him off the objective this turn. True Evidence will now attack. With the Scion being equipped with the Enchanted Blade, this will be a total of 12 attacks on 4s and 3s. And 3s for nothing.
I'll be activating the Black Knights, and they will pile in. I will start with the Barrel Lances, total of 11 attacks, hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s. Five wounds at no rend.
Tree Revenants have a 5-up save. With their ability Martial Memories, I can reroll 1 dice per phase. I will take 4 total wounds.
Horses will kick and stomp for 10 attacks, hitting on 4s and 4s. Be 2 wounds at no rend.
2 wounds, still saving on a 5. I am activating the Dryads, however not piling in.
I'll now activate the Graveyard a second time because of Van Hel's Dance Macabre, and they will pile in and attack once more. So I'll be attacking with 8 Graveguard, still hitting on a 2+, without the champion's extra attacks, so that would be 16 attacks. So that's a total of 7 wounds at -1, with an additional 3 mortal wounds.
7 wounds at -1, with all at defense and Dryad still having a unit size over 10, puts me on a 4-up save. I'll suffer 3 wounds in addition to the mortal wounds.
A total of 9 damage.
I'm going to use 1 command point for Inspiring Presence to make the Dryads auto-pass.
So that'll be the end of the Soulblight player's first turn. I'm going to capture 1 point here for holding 1 objective, another one for holding multiple objectives, and I'll score 3 points for completing my battle tactic with monsters, putting me at 5.
Rough turn for Sylvaneth. The Graveguard had a little bit more punch than the Dryads were expecting, and they weren't able to move far enough back to avoid getting charged. Not only that, but due to an error on my side of not dispelling the spell portal, the Warsong will be sitting over on that edge, possibly with nothing to do next round if I take the first turn.
As for me, I felt I got extraordinarily lucky with some of my dice rolls, but also I made a couple tactical errors, including getting outside of my buffs. We'll see how it goes.
Roll off for priority for round 2.
You got it.
Sylvaneth hat with the 6, I will keep the first turn. At the beginning of the round, Drycha will choose Enraged in order to have her colony of Flitter Furies attacks characteristic be 20 rather than 10. For my battle tactic, I will be choosing Monstrous Takeover. I'll be picking my Tree Lord Ancient. For my heroic action, I will be using Heroic Recovery on Drycha. And that is lower than her Bravery. I'll get the 3 wounds back for 2.
For my own heroic action, I'll be taking Heroic Leadership on Neferata for a command point.
For my first spell, Branch Wraith is going to attempt to cast Rouse to Wrath again, going off on a 7, and we don't get there. For Branch Wraith's second spell, she's going to attempt to cast Throne of Vines, also going off on a 7. And we get there with an 8.
Not being much a fan of that, Manfred is going to attempt to stop it. Fails.
Warsong Revenant will now attempt to cast Gladeworm, going off on a 7.
We will drop the lowest. We have a value of 6 on the dice, plus 3 from being near a wood and throne of vines, so that is a 9.
Manfred will make another attempt to stop this. Fails.
Thanks to my command trait, the Warsong Revenant being my general, nurtured by magic, once in each of my hero phases when this general successfully casts a spell that is not unbound, pick one friendly Gnarlroot unit wholly within 18 inches of this general. You can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that unit. I will choose Drycha
To automatically heal that 1 wound.
The Warsong will then attempt to cast Mystic Shield.
Taking the 2 highest is an 11, plus 3 takes it to 14.
Mystic Shield goes off, and we will place that on Drycha. Tree Lord Ancient will then attempt to cast Virtuous Harmony, which goes off on a 7.
And we get there with an 8.
My plucky little necromancer will attempt to dispel it. Nope. All right.
I will choose the Dryads. For D3 models? For 2.
Get it.
Drycha will now cast Primal Terror, which has a casting value of 6.
And we don't get there.
At the end of the hero phase, the worm will move 8 inches. After the Glade Worm has moved, on a 3-up, it will deal D3 mortal wounds to nearby units.
That's the 3-up. For 1.
So, Deathless Minions, we'll see if it'll save that wound. It doesn't.
Onto the movement phase. So since turn 1 and round 1, more or less, did not go so well, especially with me forgetting to undo the Umbral Spell Portal, I decided it was time to make a tactical retreat with the Warsong Revenant to come back to use that portal, just in case he decides to not unbind it again. I also moved the Tree Revenants back so that way I have a little bit extra battle line sitting on this backfield objective of mine to guard it. My Scythe Hunters are moving forward, so that way they can try to hopefully get to the enemy's objective next turn, with Tree Lord Ancient also moving forward a little bit, but still staying on my backfield objective to maintain that point. The Dryads stayed in combat bravely, and Drycha is ready to help them out in the shooting phase. I will declare all-out attack with Drycha and have her go into the Graveguard.
In response, I will declare all-out defense on my Graveguard.
Drycha's colony of Flitter Furies is more within range, and now 20 attack profile due to her being enraged. Thanks to all-out attack, she will be hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, and because she is a wizard in Gnarlroot, she will be re-rolling 1s to hit. In addition, an unmodified hit roll of an attack of 6 will be 1 mortal wound, and the sequence will end.
Rerolling 1s. Wound roll on a 3-up. So that is 10 wounds at -1, as well as 2 mortal wounds.
Since I used all defense, +1 and -1 negate each other, so I'm saving on a 5-up. Be 6 down. Add on the 2 dice, and I'm going to use my Deathless Minions to try to keep them alive. Total of 5 go down.
In my second activation for shooting, I will be having the Tree Lord Ancient also shoot into the Graveguard. The Doom Tendril Staff has an 18-inch range. 1 attack hits on 2s, wounds on 3s with -1 rend.
Reroll 1s due to Gnarlroot. Hits. Wounds at -1.
Saves on a 5+. Sweet.
Into the charge phase, I'm going to not have anything charge in, and we're going to move straight into the combat phase. On my turn, I will be enrapturing you, so adding 1 to my hit rolls.
Due to them being -1 attacks, but the Dryad's Branch Nymph still having +1 attack profile. With 9 total models, I have 10 total attacks. Thanks to Enrapture, I'll be hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. I will get to reroll 1s to hit due to being within 12 inches of Dry Chest. Force to wound.
Oof.
1 and 0. No rend.
I save on a 5 up.
1 damage.
I have deathless minions. Alright. I will activate the Graveguard and I will use all out attack. So I'll have 13 Graveguard attack. That will be 26 attacks plus 1 from the champion. I'll be hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s, and 6s to wound cause mortal wounds. "13 saves and 4 mortal wounds."
13 saves on a 5 up. Those saves were on a 6 up, still failed them.
Okay.
Going into the Battle Shock phase, I no longer have a unit alive to do Battle Shock for, and Andrew's Graveguard did lose 6 total models.
I find that to be an acceptable risk, so I will roll for it. They're okay.
At the end of the round, I will score 1 point for holding 1 objective, 1 point for holding 2 objectives, and 2 points for completing my battle tactic.
For my battle tactic, I will be choosing Savage Spearhead. And for my heroic action, I will be choosing his Finest Hour on my Vampire Lord.
For my heroic action, I'll be using Heroic Leadership off of the Tree Lord Ancient.
And we don't get there.
At the beginning of the hero phase, I'll be using Tree Lord Ancient to dispel the Endless Spell Portal.
Okay, for my first spell, Manfred is going to attempt to cast Invigorating Aura. Normally it's an 8 to cast, but since there are 4 death heroes on the table, so plus 4 to the roll. Goes off on a 12.
Warsong will attempt to deny.
Oh, right, because you have your buffs and stuff.
8.
Nope.
Close. Manfred will attempt to cast Arcane Bolt. Yay. Goes off on a 5, right? Vampire Lord is going to attempt to cast Flaming Weapon. Goes off on a 10.
We will attempt to deny that with Drycha.
I will cast Flaming Weapon on the Death Lance. Alright, well, I'm going to cast Overwhelming Dread first from Neferata on a 9. And that means it goes off twice, which means I can give 2 units each -1 to hit, or 1 unit -2 to hit.
Branch Wraith will attempt to dispel that.
Okay. So I will put it on your Hunters and Draca. And then I'll attempt to cast Dark Mist as my last spell. Goes off on an 8. I will put it on the Vampire Lord, so he can no longer be rented this turn. Manfred and Neferata will both use their command abilities again.
At the end of the hero phase, the Glade Worm gets to move 8 inches. After the Glade Worm is moved, it is within 1 inch of the Graveguard, so on a 3 up, it will deal D3 mortal wounds. It does not.
What I wanted to do is get aggressive. It's time for the Vampire Lord to go punch something, see what my build can do. My other two monstrous heroes are taking advantage of their speed to get points this turn. And my Black Knights on the far side are going to make an attempt to secure the table. The dragon is going to breathe blah onto your Kurnoth Hunters. Because there are 6 models in the unit, if I roll a dice that is equal to or less than the number of models in the unit, I automatically hit. Therefore, it's a free hit. All I have to do is roll a wound. And the famous saying, anything but a 1! Okay. Add -3 to your save.
The Kurnoth Hunters have no save.
So I roll a d6 for damage, and I get to reroll it due to fetid breath. But I will keep the 4.
At the beginning of the charge phase, the Kurnoth Hunters are going to plant roots so they can add 1 to their save rolls.
Okay, so charge phase. I'm going to charge with the Vampire Lord. That's fine. The Graveguard are going to attempt to charge as well. On an 8th, they're going into Draca. Last thing to do will be the Black Knights giving a charge range attack as well for 8. The Black Knights are going to attempt to do some impact hits. There we go. They finally succeed. They will get D3 mortal wounds. 3. My Vampire Lord's monstrous rampage is going to be smashed to rubble. I'm going to attempt to put his trees back into the ground. I succeed on a 5. Because my Graveguard are hunters in the Heartlands, they will deny Draca from doing a monstrous rampage.
I'll be activating the command ability, the Earth Defends. So the Kurnoth Hunters will have a 6-up ward. So what's first?
I will be activating the Graveguard first, not piling in because I want to capture that objective. They gain +1 to hit and wound because of Manfred. So they hit on 2s and wound on 3s.
Drycha is going to use all of defense.
Still don't get to reroll ones. So sad. Alright. So that's 5 mortal wounds. And 9 saves.
Drycha is going to use all of defense to ignore rend of -1. That combined with Mystic Shield will make her save characteristic a 2-up.
Okay.
With 3 1s, she is going to take a total of 6 damage from there, plus the 5 mortal wounds makes it a total of 11. I will activate the Tree Revenants to try and use their 6-inch pile-in to get away from the rest of the models. Still out of range for their attacks, that is my activation.
I will activate the Vampire Lord and see what all he can do. So the Vampire Lord is going to start with his Death Lance. He's going to have 4 attacks because of his martial expertise. He's going to be hitting and wounding on a 2+ because Manfred's nearby and used his command ability. And his rend is currently at -2 because of his charge and the special rules for the lance. And he'll be at damage 5. Do not get to reroll 1s to hit. 1 missed, however, 6s cause an extra hit due to his premeditated violence. That's going to be 4 wounds at -2.
Kurnoth Hunters have a save of a 4-up, with their roots being down that adds 1 to their save, so these will be saving on a 5. I'll save 3 and take 1.
That'd be 5 damage, good sir.
Thanks to my Gnarl Root command ability, I will roll these for my ward, ignoring none of them.
The Vampire Lord will be next attacking with the Snapping Maw. 3 attacks, they'll be hitting on 3s and wounding on 2s, again because of Manfred. So 1 hit, and 1 wound at -2.
Again with -2, the Kurnoth Hunters are saving on a 5-up.
This will be d6 damage for 3.
3 ward saves. Feel all of them.
The last thing to do are the Sword-like Claws. That will be hitting on a 3, wounding on a 2 for 2 damage. That will be 2 saves at -1.
2 saves -1 makes the Kurnoth Hunters save on a 4.
Saved 1, failed 1.
2 damage. Ward saves. Save them both.
Yeah.
I will activate the Kurnoth Hunters with Scythes, piling them in their maximum 1 inch. The Kurnoth Hunter Huntmaster will make his attacks first. I add 1 to hit rolls for the Huntmaster, however he is -1 to hit. So these will be on 3s.
Rerolling 1s to hit.
Wounding on 4s.
For 1.
I will make a save on a 2+. Well done.
Damage is 3 for 2.
Deathless minions. Saves neither. He takes 2.
The other 2 Kurnoth Hunters that are within range will make their attacks. They do not have the additional +1 to hit, so they will hit on 4s.
Reroll 1s. And they will wound on 4s. For nothing.
I will next activate the Black Knights. Attack first with the Death Lance. Awesome. I think that totally missed. Yep. Hits on 4s. Biff. Hooves and Teeth. 1 hit. Nothing.
At the end of the combat phase, I pick 1 enemy unit within 1 inch of the unit of Kurnoth Hunters and roll 1 die for each model in my unit. For each 4-up, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Trample on foot roll. That'll be 2 mortal wounds.
It's alright.
I'm looking for anything less than a 5 for my bravery test on Kurnoth Hunters. They're good.
So at the end of my turn, I will get 1 point for holding 1 objective, 1 point for holding 2 objectives, another point for holding more objectives, another point for killing a monster, and 3 more points for completing my battle tactic for a total of 7.
Priority roll for round 3. Cool. Before we go into battle round 3, especially after me losing the priority roll, I have decided to concede to Soulblight Gravelords. Between 1 really bad roll and 1 really bad decision in battle round 1, I set myself up for failure pretty handedly. After that, I was not really able to come back at all. I came in with this with about 50-50 confidence in being able to win. I know that Sylvaneth is not in an amazing spot right now. However, they do have a lot of tools to themselves to kind of shine through when the opponent makes enough mistakes. However, today, between a bad luck roll with the Warsong Revenant's Mortal Wounds output spell, as well as me neglecting to dispel the Umbral spell portal in my opponent's first turn, I was not really able to come back. I was counting on that first spell to get rid of the Graveguard, and then have my Dryads clean them up on potentially round 2, but neither of those things were really able to work out in my favor. Not only that, but he was able to quickly move most of his army to my left flank, whilst I moved most of my army to the right. He was able to come in pretty quickly and annihilate the majority of my force.
I came into this game wanting to use monsters. For all of Age of Sigmar 3rd edition so far, I have not used any monsters. After all, I normally play Night Haunt, normally lose, and I don't have any monsters. So I wanted to really give it a try. I wanted to see how they could do completing battle tactics. I wanted to see how they could do stomping on things. And I was not disappointed, even though I only attacked with one monster, and he didn't actually do a whole lot of damage, but I was still quite happy with the results. They got some pretty cool spells off when I got the chance to get spells off, and overall it was fun. I built this list with a lot of speed in mind, and I'm glad to have put it into action. I put my speed to use on the right flank, which I saw being mostly undefended, so I was able to sneak in and hit when I needed to hit, and that was quite fine by me. I did stray out of my buffs range more often than not, but that's just a learning curve thing I have to do, and I will get better at that as time goes on. We'll
Thankfully, in this game, it did not matter too much that you got out of your buff range, especially since you were in it for the important buff in the first round.
Right. That's the one that really mattered when I actually were in a combat where you would be fighting back. After that, though, they kind of steamrolled anything they came across.
Droicha was not able to even save herself from the first time that she got into a combat, which is unfortunate, but honestly, at the end of the day, a 2-up rendable save is not as tough when we're talking about Death Guard going into, or Graveguard going into them.
True.
Biggest loser for me today is definitely going to be my War Song. Half because of a misplay, and half because of the luck of the dice. Honestly, though, at the end of this, my MVP is going to have to be my Kurnoth Hunters, because they're the only ones that did a significant amount of wounds.
My biggest loser was my own tactics. I would get myself out of range out of a lot of stuff. For example, my Necromancer, hiding underneath the terrain, didn't do anything on the second turn. And then Manfred also didn't cast any spells on the second turn, so that was my fault in not keeping things in the right spot. The MVPs are absolutely the Graveguard. They took out those 30 Dryads that I was scared most about, and then they gave Draco a licking, even though I only attacked with 7 dudes, so I was very, very impressed with their output.
Alright, that was our first game of the Winter Rubicon Tournament, and we're going to have a full 8-person bracket, so look forward to more games coming. Appreciate everybody who stuck around to the end and viewed. Let us know what we can do differently and improve on in our next game, and what you liked in our next game in the comments below. As always, the link to the Discord is below. We'd love if you stopped by and joined our conversation there, and just appreciate everybody watching the videos and participating. So, night everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.